Welcome to the Explainer. Let's just dive right into this. Today, we're dissecting exactly how Zero Trust protects hybrid workers. Because let's just face reality here. Traditional network security is completely failing the modern distributed workforce. For decades, we relied on this model that, well, it simply doesn't map to how we actually work today. I mean, if you've got employees logging in from coffee shops, home offices, and branch locations across the globe, we absolutely have to completely rethink how we secure our data. So the traditional VPN approach operates on this massive assumption. If you're inside the perimeter, you're trusted. It's kind of like a castle with a strong moat, right? Once you lower the drawbridge, anyone inside just has free reign. But look at the 2026 hybrid workforce. There is no single castle anymore. The whole thing is completely decentralized. So we've got to operate on what we call an untrusted default. When your team is accessing cloud business apps from literally anywhere, trusting a user simply because they have a network password, yeah, that's a recipe for an absolute disaster. To make sense of all this, we're following a clear blueprint today. First, the death of the perimeter. Second, the identity-first commandment. Third, the micro-segmentation strategy. Fourth, continuous threat monitoring. And finally, enterprise execution. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the death of the perimeter. Generic IT solutions are just completely obsolete in a landscape defined by such rapid tech shifts. So what actually replaces the perimeter? Well, it's Zero Trust Network Access, or ZTNA. Basically, this means treating every single device, user, and session as strictly untrusted. It requires continuous authentication, completely regardless of origin. And this is a huge game changer for the hybrid worker, because it means an executive logging in from HQ in Chennai or a contractor sitting at a local cafe, well, they're treated with the exact same level of skepticism. You don't get a free pass just because of what your IP address says. No way. Moving on to Section 2, the Identity First Commandment. So if we're tearing down those old castle walls, we have to start rebuilding our security right at the user level. The practical flow here is actually pretty fascinating. Step 1 is the untrusted access request. You want into the network? Well, the system automatically assumes you're hostile. Then, Step 2 is where the magic really happens. Strict identity and MFA verification. We're talking multi-factor authentication and continuous telemetry that checks exactly who you are and what specific device you're using. And only after passing that rigorous gauntlet do we hit Step 3, identity-defined access granted. Every single access request has to pass through this flow. Absolutely zero exceptions. Let's look at Section 3, the micro-segmentation strategy. Now, the logical question you're probably asking yourself right now is, okay, what happens if a compromised device actually manages to slip through that first layer of defense? Well, the answer is neutralizing lateral movement. This is absolutely crucial. Imagine dividing your entire cloud environment into secure microsegments. Think of them like those heavy blast doors on a submarine. If a really sophisticated breach happens and a bad actor gets into one compartment, boom, the blast doors immediately seal. The breach literally cannot spread sideways across your legacy systems or microservices. It ensures that, say, a compromised laptop in a remote office doesn't end up draining your entire core data center. Which brings us to Section 4, continuous threat monitoring. You see, verifying identity just once at the login screen, it simply isn't enough anymore. To maintain real-time vigilance, enterprise architectures rely on some seriously specialized technology pillars. You're going to need Fortinet and Palo Alto for perimeter protection. You need CrowdStrike and Trend Micro for active threat hunting right there on that hybrid worker's laptop. And to guarantee web app compliance and shield against those massive DDoS attacks, you integrate Akamai in F5. You really can't build a bulletproof multi-cloud strategy by going at it alone. You've got to orchestrate these industry-leading defenses simultaneously. And finally, Section 5, enterprise execution. It's one thing to just talk about zero trust in theory, right? But it's a whole other beast to actually deploy it for global businesses. I absolutely love this quote from the chief systems architect over at Layots Technologies because it really grounds what we're talking about here. Quote, "By embedding a zero trust model directly at the network edge, we ensure our clients bypass the vulnerabilities of traditional perimeter security." End quote. They use active-active clustering, which basically means they're running systems simultaneously. So if one drops, the other instantly takes over. For the hybrid worker, this means absolutely zero disruption. They are quite literally hardening the perimeter by pushing the security out to wherever the user happens to be. And the result of that kind of architecture? A 99.99% operational uptime SLA. To put that into perspective, the real takeaway here is that rigorous, zero-trust security doesn't mean your remote employees have to sit there suffering through slow, laggy connections. With intelligent design, you get maximum speed alongside an ironclad security posture. Doing this at scale, though, requires massive effort. We are looking at over 500 enterprise ecosystem deployments. Because security isn't just a part-time gig, it's watched by a 24/7, 365 active NOC, that's a Network Operations Center. It's fully GDPR and HIPAA compliant, supporting these remote global delivery models across the US, UK, Europe, and the Middle East. And, structurally, the whole shebang is supported by operational hubs across Chennai, Hyderabad, and Bangalore. This is exactly what it looks like to execute a truly secure multi-cloud strategy with zero single points of failure. Which leaves us with this final, absolutely critical question for you to consider. Is your enterprise infrastructure ready for a zero-trust reality, or are you still relying on a crumbling perimeter? Look, the 2026 workforce isn't moving backward, and your security really can't either. What you should take away from this explainer is that treating every single request as untrusted is literally the only way to genuinely protect your data and your hybrid teams. If you aren't 100% sure where your network stands today, it is highly recommended to get a comprehensive IT assessment to evaluate your cloud readiness and security posture. Thank you so much for joining me to break this all down, and keep learning.